Auzubillahiminash-shaytanir-rajim. Bismillahir-rahmanir-rahim. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. Welcome back to my channel, The Turquoise Gem. Well, students, how are you? I hope that all of you are doing good. Our today's topic is consumers' equilibrium with the help of indifference curve and budget line, or consumers equilibrium under indifference curve approach or ordinal approach. Students, you are supposed to know about the budget line and indifference curve by watching my previous videos, and I hope that you have learnt about these two terms thoroughly by watching my videos. Now the next step is that how the consumer will attain the equilibrium under indifference curve approach. As consumers will be in equilibrium, or you know that you know that what is equilibrium. Equilibrium is the state of the mind of the consumer where he is satisfied, or there is no margin of change, or there is no margin of confusion for the consumer. The consumer is fully satisfied. So with the help of the figure, it can be explained in a way that the consumer will be in equilibrium where the budget line, indifference curve is tangent to the budget line, which is the necessary condition for the consumer's equilibrium, and the consumer's equilibrium will take place at the point where the slope of indifference curve is equal to the slope of budget line. As all of you know that the slope of indifference curve is a marginal rate of substitution, and that is equal to delta y over delta x, and the slope of budget line is price of x over price of y. Now let's focus on the figure. In the figure we have taken x commodity on the x-axis and y commodity on y-axis. Suppose the x commodity is apple and the y commodity is banana. Now the equilibrium condition is satisfied at the point E, where the slopes of indifference curve and budget line are equal. Now suppose if we take any other point other than above or below the point E. Suppose if we are at point A, the marginal rate of substitution is greater than price of x over price of y. It means that the slope of the indifference curve is greater than the slope of budget line, because as I have shown with the help of a line on the indifference curve at the point A, this line is steeper than the budget line LL. It means that when a line is steeper, it means that its slope is more than the line which is less steeper. So at that point, marginal rate of substitution between x and y is greater than price of x and price of y. It means that consumer, as you know that the marginal rate of substitution is equal to delta y over delta x, or it means that the how many units of the bananas consumer is willing to sacrifice to get additional unit of x. When marginal rate of substitution is greater than price of x and price of y, it means that the consumer is willing to sacrifice more of the units of the bananas to get an additional unit of the apple. This it means that he is willing to sacrifice more units of the bananas to get 1 unit of x as required in the market. So it will induce the consumer to purchase more of x and less of y. Due to this, the slope of delta y or delta x, this fraction will decrease, as I have shown with the help of green color. That I have this is written with the green marker, that if delta x is increased, the marginal rate of substitution will decrease, and vice versa. It means that when delta x is greater number than the delta y, then marginal rate of substitution will decrease. And when delta x is less than delta y, then marginal rate of less than delta y, then marginal rate of substitution will increase. As all of you know that if in a fraction the denominator is smaller, then the whole fraction will will increase, and when the denominator is greater, then the fraction will decrease. And now so this marginal rate of substitution will go on to decrease until it become equal to the slope of budget line. So the consumer will reach from point A to point E, where slope of the budget line is equal to the slope of the indifference curve. Now if we take a point below the point E, at point B, again the slope of indifference curve is less than the slope of the budget line, as the slope of indifference curve is marginal rate of substitution between x and y, and the slope of budget line is price of x or price of y. As I told you before, that the line which is steeper has more slope, and which is flatter has less. So as at point B, the line the slope of indifference curve is shown by the line drawn by on the point B, which is flatter than the budget line LL. It means there's that marginal rate of substitution between x and y is less than price of x and price of y, or the slope of the indifference curve is less than the slope of budget line. It means that the units of the bananas which consumer wants to sacrifice is less to get the additional unit of the labor. It will then the amount required in the market. It will induce the consumer to purchase less of the x. When the delta x, so in marginal rate of substitution fraction, when the delta x will decrease, then the whole fraction will increase, then it will continue till it becomes equal to price of x or price of y. So the consumer will move from point B to point E. So in either of the condition, at point A or point B, the consumer is not satisfied, because the equilibrium condition is not satisfied, which is the point at which the slope of indifference curve is equal to slope of budget line, which is at point E. So consumer is in equilibrium at point E, whereas marginal rate of substitution or the slope of indifference curve is equal to the slope of budget line, price of x or price of y. So students, this was all about the topic. I hope that you have understood thoroughly. Allah Hafiz.